I know it's a big night here in the United States as we find out if Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States. But it was also a big night on SmackDown, man. Tons of big news about the Survivor Series. Let's talk about it. What is going on, guys? JD from New York here. Thank you so much for tuning back into the channel tonight, November 8th, election night here in the United States, 2016. This is your official SmackDown live review, second night in Glasgow, Scotland for the WWE. Yesterday with Monday Night Raw, tonight with SmackDown Live. Now, I understand it was a tape show. I purposely stayed off Twitter all day long because I didn't want anything spoiled for me. I figured and I assumed, based on my own judgments, that SmackDown Live was going to be a little bit more newsworthy of a show. And I was very interested in the Becky Lynch-Alexa Bliss SmackDown Live Women's Championship match that they promoted to be the main event. But WWE, again, treats their fans like absolute retards and thinks that we're all fucking stupid. And we'll talk about that as we get on with the review. But I was very interested in that. Obviously, you know, with the build for Survivor Series and this and that, there was a lot of twists and turns, man, and I'm glad I didn't read the spoilers. I'm glad I didn't hop on Twitter today to have anything spoiled for me because there was a lot of newsworthy notes about this show, about what's happening next week, about the plans for Survivor Series. A lot of big Survivor Series news and notes came out of this show. Now, the one thing I do want to start off with is Tom Phillips. It was reported via WWE.com, and then it made its way to Twitter that Tom Phillips was going to be another addition to the announce team on SmackDown Live. Now, I don't know if this is going to be set in stone. I don't know if this is a permanent thing for Tom Phillips. And I love Tom Phillips' work, man. I think he's fantastic with Corey Graves down in NXT. I like his delivery. I like his presentation. I think he's got a great voice. And I think he brings a great presence to the announce team. And he obviously works well with Corey Graves. Him being on SmackDown, I do not like. Unless I'm thinking about what they could be doing. Are they preparing Tom Phillips to take over Mauro Ranallo's spot on SmackDown and maybe move Mauro to Monday Night Raw and just replace Michael Cole and have Mauro and Corey Graves? Is this Corey Graves Mauro Ranallo experiment for 205 Live? Is this going to be a test to see how they gel together to eventually get Mauro Ranallo on Monday Night Raw, man? These are the things I think about when you're at work all day. Okay, I'm home, I'm thinking about it, I'm watching the show. These are the things that are floating through my head. That could possibly be a scenario that WWE could be thinking about with Tom Phillips. Now, I initially stated that I thought it was disrespectful if they were going to really add a fourth member and have a four-man announce team. 3 men is enough. I mean, hearing JBL is enough. Hearing David Otunga is enough. If you want Mauro Ranallo to go out there and do everything on his own, I'm pretty sure he's more than qualified to do that show by himself as a solo act. He doesn't need anybody else, man. I think everybody else is holding him back. Tom Phillips is not a color commentator. He's not. He's got the voice of a play-by-play. He's got the voice of a number one. He does it with NXT, and SmackDown does not need another play-by-play guy. SmackDown doesn't need another number one commentator. They got Mauro for that. To me, that's disrespectful. Why are you adding more people for Mauro to work with? Why are you trying to conceal what he does? Why are you trying to hide how great Mauro Ranallo is? You know, it sucks that he's already saddled down with fucking JBL and David Otunga. But, I mean, give me a fucking break. Adding Tom Phillips to the announce team does absolutely nothing. We barely heard Tom Phillips tonight. Now, I don't know. Someone floated on Twitter that he was hosting the show. Who gives a shit? Honestly, Tom Phillips does not belong on SmackDown unless they are grooming him for SmackDown and they're going to move Mauro with Corey over to Monday Night Raw and have him work with Corey Graves there. And then Michael Cole's going to be on his way out, which would be a fucking dream come true because Michael Cole is fucking terrible. But whatever the case may be, I found it to be disrespectful to Mauro Ranallo. He does not need more pieces added to that SmackDown commentary team. If anything, get rid of fucking Otunga. He's absolutely worthless. He adds nothing to the commentary voice and presence. He's just unfunny. He doesn't make any quick-witted remarks like Corey Graves. He's not funny. He's just fucking, he's just bland. You know? He's just very boring, very ordinary. There's nothing about... I do a better job than him. I'm calling fucking WWE 2K17 with my career mode and universe mode. I'm better than him. I do a better job than David Otunga. I do a better job than JBL. I do a better job than Byron Saxton. Get these guys off of the commentary team. And obviously, like I said, this wouldn't be the first time WWE's trying to reshuffle plans and reshuffle things around because the draft was rushed. The draft was obviously rushed. They knew what they had with Corey Graves. They wanted to promote Corey Graves to Monday Night Raw. That's great. That's fantastic. But Tom Phillips is also worthy of a demotion. But realistically, Tom Phillips is worthy of a promotion as well. And with all these moving pieces, WWE didn't know what they wanted to do when they did it. This draft was fucking rushed. Half of these guys who are on SmackDown and Raw probably aren't even on the right rosters. You know? And there's several names that are not on the right roster. There's several names WWE hasn't even utilized for SmackDown. It sucks. It really does suck. But I will say this. I hope I'm right. I hope I'm right in my assumption that they are grooming Tom Phillips for a call-up to SmackDown to take over Mauro's spot, and then Mauro moves over to Monday Night Raw to work with Corey Graves, and this 205 Live in which they're going to be calling it Graves and Ranallo. I hope this is a tryout to see how really well they gel together, and I'm assuming they will. I think it's going to come off fantastic. They did the pre-show for Hell in a Cell. It's going to work out great. WWE's going to realize this. They're going to want Mauro on Raw. It's about time. Change needs to be made. Monday Night Raw needs the changes to be made to make it a good show again. And I think that's a step in the right direction. That's number one, okay? Number two, we were all ecstatic about Baron Corbin being on Team SmackDown. As of tonight, he is no longer part of Team SmackDown. For whatever reason, why WWE took him off the roster, I don't know. I really don't know. I was excited to see Baron Corbin on SmackDown's team because this is what the draft, this is what the brand extension was about. This is what the brand extension was for. To give opportunity to new WWE superstars who were just promoted, like a Baron Corbin, like an Apollo Crews, like an Ascension, like a Tyler Breeze, you know? And I thought this was going to be a great role for Baron Corbin. There were even reports that Baron Corbin was going to be feuding with John Cena going into the Royal Rumble. That this Survivor Series 5-on-5, Team SmackDown versus Team Raw, was going to groom him for a huge push. They were going to groom him for the main event. He's no longer part of the match. He is no longer part of the match. They put him in a match with Kalisto. Kalisto accidentally, not accidentally I should say, or Baron Corbin accidentally slipped off the ring apron. Kalisto was making his way down the aisle per his entrance, and he sneak attacked Baron Corbin by drop kicking his leg, and then he threw him into the steel steps. So after that, referees tried to break it up. He went to the top rope, disobeyed the referee's orders, did a big splash off the top rope, again attacking Baron Corbin's leg, and he is no longer able to compete at the Survivor Series. So that was his exit out of the Survivor Series match, Team Raw vs. SmackDown. So this entire show was Daniel Bryan wanting to give Shane McMahon an answer. He couldn't do it right away. He says, you know what, by the end of tonight's show, I will have a fifth member for Team SmackDown. Now, I initially thought it was going to be John Cena, because Team SmackDown was looking a little bit weak. They still looked formidable. They still got AJ Styles. They still got Dean Ambrose, Bray Wyatt, Randy Orton. Those are 4 top-level guys right there. And more than enough to go against WWE didn't name John Cena. And lo and behold, they pretty much threw everybody for a loop. Nobody's seen this coming. Again, just like we seen at WrestleMania, nobody expected The Undertaker to be going one-on-one with Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, let alone inside Hell in a Cell. Daniel Bryan appointed Shane McMahon as the 5th member of Team SmackDown. I don't know if that's going to put Team SmackDown over the edge like John Cena would. Obviously, it's not. But I don't know what to think about this. I am very indifferent about this. And the only thing I could say here is that it certainly does make the Survivor Series main event a lot more interesting. It makes the Survivor Series main event a lot more unpredictable. And it could be a gateway to further storylines for WrestleMania. And I believe, if I was to make a wild guess here, I think there's going to be at least some sort of WrestleMania build coming out of the Survivor Series. That's just my opinion on that. There's a lot, and I mean more so than what we previously seen. There are a lot of moving parts going into this Survivor Series. There's a lot of moving parts with a lot of these matches, with a lot of these feuds. There's a lot of intermatch storylines going on here. There's a lot that I really don't even want to dive into right now, because I don't want to make this a huge review. I'm letting you know that Shane McMahon is now part of Team SmackDown. But there's a lot of moving pieces that goes into this Survivor Series with a lot of different components. But what I am saying to you is I am making a wild guess that there will be some sort of WrestleMania build to come out of this pay-per-view. It just looks like it. Especially with Shane McMahon now being in the Survivor Series. Certainly makes it unpredictable. It doesn't make it better, but it certainly enhances the unpredictability of the match, because you know when Shane McMahon is in a big match situation, he is going to try and steal the show, no matter who he is with. He did it at WrestleMania. We knew why Hell in a Cell was made, for Shane McMahon to jump off the fucking cage. What is he going to do at Survivor Series? And they even brought that up. JBL and the commentating team brought that up. Shane McMahon's going to be in the main event. What is Shane McMahon going to do to ensure that SmackDown wins? I like it. But I am very indifferent. And you guys know how I feel about this brand split and my feelings going into this. I wanted the brand split to be used to split the brands and create new stars. It's tough to create new stars when Shane McMahon is taking up a valuable spot that could have been for a Baron Corbin. That's the only part of it I don't like. You know? That's the only part of it I do not like. Shane McMahon and a McMahon is taking up a valuable spot in the main event where that could go to a younger, up-and-coming, fresh, create a new star. You know? That's just my opinion on that. I'm sure you guys feel the same way about that. Now, that was obviously big news. To some, that might be the biggest news of the night. In fact, the biggest news of the night for me was the announcement that was made per Daniel Bryan. Brian Kendrick will be defending the Cruiserweight Championship at Survivor Series. Okay? He will be defending the Cruiserweight Championship against a SmackDown superstar. He will be defending the Cruiserweight Championship against Kalisto at the Survivor Series. Now, this is where it gets interesting. You guys know with the announcement of 205 Live that they will be taping their own Cruiserweight show. The Cruiserweights will be having their own show taped for the network, and that will be touring with SmackDown. They will be airing that show after SmackDown goes off the air at 10 p.m. on the network. Talking Smack will be now at 11 p.m. So, this taping will be taking place during SmackDown. And everybody was wondering, JD, is this opening up a door for the Cruiserweights to come to SmackDown? Being that they're going to be touring with the Blue brand. Are the Cruiserweights going to make their way over to SmackDown? I couldn't really give an answer. Because I understand that Monday Night Raw is not the best fit for them. But being that Monday Night Raw has 3 hours to fill, it's tough to see Monday Night Raw letting the Cruiserweights just go. But with the announcement tonight, the stipulation to this Kalisto versus Bryan Kendrick match for the Cruiserweight Championship. Now, there's no story between these two. There's no history between these two whatsoever. But if Kalisto wins the Cruiserweight Championship, being that he is a SmackDown superstar, if he wins the Cruiserweight Championship at the Survivor Series, the entire division of the Cruiserweights comes over to SmackDown, and they will be exclusive to SmackDown. If Bryan Kendrick wins, obviously they stay on Raw. The Cruiserweight title stays on Raw. Now, that is massive, because we've been complaining here on Monday Night Raw Review, on Off The Script, on Twitter, everywhere, that the Cruiserweights are being treated fucking miserably on Monday Night Raw. That they've taken something that was so special with the Cruiserweight Classic and they dumbed it down to fit the mold that is Monday Night Raw. Boring, stale, generic, unexciting, unappealing. They took everything that made the Cruiserweights special. All the high-flying moves, all the fucking technical ability, and the fucking unbelievable matches that we've seen at the Cruiserweight Classic. They took all of that, and they're forcing these guys down with ball and chain and handcuffs, and they're forcing them to wrestle a WWE Raw standard match with no pizzazz, no fireworks, no excitement at all behind it. That is what's killing the division. Vince McMahon took these guys, Kevin Dunn took these guys, and they thought, you know what? They're on Monday Night Raw now. They got to do what we say instead of letting them go out there and be that different component that Monday Night Raw so desperately needed. They made the Cruiserweights just like everything else on that show. Unappealing. Monday Night Raw by default is unappealing. How are you going to take the Cruiserweights and take what they did and the magic that they made and conceal it and cover it up and have them go out there and do none of that simply to appease what Monday Night Raw really is, a piece of dog shit? This is why they don't belong on Monday Night Raw. Plus, you're fucking soiling them with miserable storylines, terrible fucking acting. The Cruiserweight Classic had storylines. I mean, the sit-down fucking interviews that these guys had. The Kendricks, the fucking, the Ibushis, the Jack Gallagher's, the Tozawas, the Noam Dars, the TJ Perkins. All of these guys were so intriguing and interesting. On the Cruiserweight Classic, you put them on Monday Night Raw, the fucking overly scripted dialogue, the fucking terrible acting that you're forcing upon these guys. Who's running this fucking show? And how don't you see that that is just demoralizing everything that we just seen this summer? So if I was booking this Survivor Series, Kalisto is the new Cruiserweight champion. SmackDown needs the Cruiserweights. No, I'm going to rephrase that. The Cruiserweights need SmackDown. Being that they're touring with SmackDown, they're going to be taping after SmackDown. They're going to be SmackDown. They need to be on SmackDown, period. Monday Night Raw obviously doesn't need the Cruiserweights. Obviously don't want the Cruiserweights. If they did, they would have been showcased the way that we expected. Or let me rephrase that. We expected them to be fucking garbage on Monday Night Raw. They should have been treated and booked like we seen with the Cruiserweight Classic. WWE went against that. Obviously, they don't care about the Cruiserweights either. 3-4-minute matches. I mean, they're totaling 7 minutes on Monday Night Raw last night, but 4 minutes of it were commercial. And every week, it's a 6-man tag or a tag team match. There's no one-on-one. There's no dissension between who the next challenger is for the title. You got the title on a heel champion now, on a heel character who's got a ton of baby faces around him that could challenge for the title. What has WWE done to get Bryan Kendrick a challenger, a face, to challenge for that championship? Nothing. We've seen doses of it with Rich Swann here, but what are they really doing? They're sending him out there just because. Oh, we got 5 minutes to fill, we'll just make a 6-man tag. No, that's not the way the Cruiserweights are supposed to be built. The Cruiserweights should have been billed like the Cruiserweights for WCW were billed. 8 o'clock, fucking authority segment, fuck Stephanie McMahon, fuck Mick Foley, fuck what you have to say. I'm sitting down after a long day. I want to see 15 minutes of unadulterated fucking nonstop action. Crowd is hot. The crowd is at its hottest when the show starts. Give them the Cruiserweights. If this continued week after week after week, and people were actually prone to seeing a Tony Nese and all his aerial ability and all the moves that this guy possesses, if people were prone to seeing a TJ Perkins and a Grand Metalik and a Rich Swann and a Cedric Alexander, they would get over on their move set alone. They would get over based on their in-ring ability alone. But what has WWE done? They haven't done that. They put them on at 9:30, 10, 10:30. They give them 5 minutes. They don't fucking care about anything about the Cruiserweights. People don't care as a result because WWE, oh, we don't care. The fans aren't going to care. And Michael Cole obviously doesn't have any enthusiasm about what he's calling. Byron Saxton has no enthusiasm about what he's calling as far as the commentating goes. At least if they're on SmackDown, they will have Mauro Ranallo, who will make them superstars. Simple. Simple. That's what you have to do. They need to be on SmackDown. Kalisto needs to win that match. As far as I'm concerned, that's the biggest announcement from SmackDown tonight. Easy. And if WWE doesn't relinquish that, there's an issue. There's a big problem. Now, what does this mean for the Intercontinental Championship? If the Cruiserweights have a chance to be on SmackDown, does that mean Sami Zayn wins the Intercontinental Championship and brings that over to Monday Night Raw in a flop of titles? Because as far as I'm concerned, Sami Zayn could win the Intercontinental Championship and there could be some sort of trade made between Raw and SmackDown. Maybe The Miz interferes in that match to keep the title on SmackDown because he's so obsessed with it. Because he knows if Sami Zayn takes the belt to Monday Night Raw, then there'll be no more Intercontinental Championship for The Miz to chase. And he's got no mid-card title at all. There needs to be a mid-card title on SmackDown. There needs to be. If you're going to move everything over to Monday Night Raw, there virtually is no mid-card. There is none. So putting the title on Monday Night Raw will do no good. It's just going to be another title for a lack of a roster. It needs to remain on SmackDown. Because with the addition of the Cruiserweights, not only can a Ziggler, a Zayn, a Miz challenge for the Intercontinental Championship, but we have a Cedric Alexander who can easily challenge for a Intercontinental Championship. We have a Rich Swann who can easily challenge for an Intercontinental Championship. We have a Tony Nese who can easily challenge for a Intercontinental Championship. That's just my logic. That's just my way of thinking about it. But what will WWE do? Are they really going to put another title on Monday Night Raw when it doesn't need another title? What they need is direction. They don't need more titles, and more titles means nothing. They have no roster to begin with. They have no mid-card. Absolutely none. Reigns, Rusev. Outside that, who? Jericho? Jericho's in the main event. And then if you look at the main event, there's no main event. You look at the women's division, there's no women's division. You look at the tag team division, there's no tag team division. The show is in fucking shambles. With decisions like this, and the possible flip-flop of the titles between shows, and the Cruiserweights going over to SmackDown, moving over from Raw, it shows you that the draft was not conceived with thought behind it. It was a rush decision, and it was put together sloppily because it's WWE. There was physically no thought that went into anything about that draft. Nothing. If changes are still being made in November, stemming from the draft in the summer, you know that they fucked up. You know that they're not happy with what they did. You know that there was absolutely no planning that went into what happened at that draft. Nothing. And that's the stone cold truth about that. Fact. Changes need to be made. I just hope the WWE makes the right ones. Ones that make sense. Ones that are going to enhance the brands. I don't see Monday Night Raw coming out of this looking good at all. Because if they're going to lose the Cruiserweights, that's a big blow if you ask me. Because I know Shane, the writing team, Bryan, and the voice of Ronaldo are going to make the Cruiserweights look infinitely better than they do on Monday Night Raw. At least we'll have some resemblance of what we've seen with the Cruiserweight Classic. If nothing changes, they're making a huge mistake. They're making a huge mistake. Sami Zayn also needs to move over to SmackDown. As far as I'm concerned, they're mistreating him absolutely nowhere on Monday Night Raw. He needs to be on SmackDown. He needs to be on SmackDown. I think he and Ziggler will have match of the night. And intertwining between all three, including The Miz, I think would be great for the Intercontinental Championship. Just the way it is. I mean, The Miz and Ziggler, the Miz and Ziggler have their history, but The Miz and Sami Zayn, they have their little history as well. Because there was a fatal four-way that was going on, you know, when the roster was won. And he had his shot at the Intercontinental Championship as well early on, you know. But hopefully they make the right decision. And hopefully a decision is made to make both brands look good in the end. That's all I can ask. As far as the rest of this show, it was decent. You know, the crowd pretty much was, I don't know if they were just exhausted from the lack of wrestling on Monday Night Raw, but those were the biggest things that happened on SmackDown. And the main event scene, well, let me talk about the women here first. The women were advertised for the main event. Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss were advertised as the main event. Okay, I respect the fuck out of Ronaldo. He is my favorite announcer in the company right now. But when he is forced to say that the women are in the main event and they're coming on at the 9 o'clock hour, that's not the main event, man. That really is not the main event. WWE, I don't know what goes through their heads, but the people watching at home are not as stupid as you lead on to be, bro. When I think main event, I think last match of the night. Okay? As far as I'm concerned, what we've seen with the last pay-per-view, the WWE Championship was not the main event at the last SmackDown pay-per-view. It was the first match of the show. It opened the show. The main event of the show was Bray Wyatt versus Randy Orton. That was the main event. That's what closed the show. The closing match is the main event. Just like tonight, the main event was this six-man tag. It was not the women's championship match. If you wanted the women to go on to be the main event, they should have been on last. Now, another thing I want to point out to you guys, why do Sasha and Charlotte get main event for a garbage fucking feud that is taking place on Monday Night Raw? Why do they get the accolades of a main event and the accolades of what a women's revolution is? But Becky and Alexa, who are putting on a much better feud and a much better in-ring story, why are they getting cheated of a main event? If this was a real women's revolution, WWE, Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss should have went on last for SmackDown. And the closing scene we should have seen was Becky holding the title, retaining her title in controversial fashion. But you want to chime in and claim that this is a women's revolution, that the page is turning for the women's division on Monday Night Raw. But what about SmackDown? I mean, I thought the women were equal. I thought the women were the same here. Why are the women being treated differently when it comes to those types of things than the women on SmackDown? See, that's what pisses me off. And nobody's going to discuss that. They'll just sweep it under the rug. It's whatever. It's SmackDown. They're not Sasha or Charlotte. No, fuck out of here. Give me a break. Sasha and Charlotte have been shoved down our throats so much, and they've put on nothing but piss-poor fucking matches. It's already a dead feud. Nobody cares about it anymore. With the idea that they made history in which they really didn't. WWE forced that upon everybody, and it failed to deliver. At least with Becky Lynch and Alexa Bliss, they put on a great match they've been putting on a feud that I'm actually invested in, but then they get billed as the main event, but don't go on as the main event. Not right. Great match. The story being told was that Alexa was working on Becky's arm. Becky retained the title in controversial fashion with the disarmor. But Alexa Bliss, when she tapped out, her foot was on the ropes, which the referee did not see. So now, I'm assuming we're going to get some type of rematch here. Alexa might have a rematch, and she will have a rematch based on that. You know, the referee's decision stands tonight, but that doesn't mean Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are going to overlook it, because realistically, Becky won, but due to a bending of the rules and the referee not seeing what was behind him, Alexa Bliss's foot was on the ropes, and that calls for a rematch. So there you have it. But it wasn't the main event, though it really should have been. Kurt Hawkins versus Apollo Crews. Who the fuck did Apollo Crews piss off? Honestly. Crews beats him down early on. Crews hits a back elbow, misses a top rope crossbody. Hawkins rolled him up for a win. Squash. Apollo Crews got fucking squashed. Not in the way that you would assume, but he lost to Kurt Hawkins, who lost the week prior in 7 seconds to Dolph Ziggler. But he comes out and beats Apollo Crews tonight. Why? Who the fuck did this guy piss off? Did this guy piss off Kevin Dunn? Does Kevin Dunn have something against Apollo Crews? Maybe it's the color of his skin. Maybe it's the way he talks. Maybe it's his theme music. Maybe he doesn't like Apollo Crews smiling. That's it. I don't get why this guy's getting shafted. Again, the brand split is supposed to be about creating new stars. Apollo Crews seems to be getting buried. This guy's got all the fucking potential in the world if somebody wants to work with this guy. Why is this guy jobbing to Kurt Hawkins, who is there merely as an enhancement talent? I don't understand it. I don't get it. We've seen also Naomi versus Natalya. This was a waste of fucking time. Natalya is absolutely fucking cringe. Naomi wins here with a roll-up. There was an interference on the outside. Carmella came out to distract Nikki Bella, who was on commentary, and Natalya gets it between them. She's blowing the whistle like Bill Alfonso in ECW. Now, why did they turn Natalya into this in-betweener? I mean, I liked evil Natalya. I like when Natalya had some kind of fucking nasty attitude. What is with her smiling and pandering to the crowd? What is this shit? She's great in the ring, but she's fucking miserable to look at. I can't stand her at all. But she's the coach. The coach of the women's team losing. I don't get it. Naomi wins, roll up. Obviously, the feud between Carmella and Nikki Bella is still ongoing, which will go into the Survivor Series match. Tag team qualifying match for Survivor Series. The Vaudevillains got squashed by Tyler Breeze and Fandango. Don't know who the fuck they pissed off. Maybe Kevin Dunn doesn't like their mustaches. Or maybe Kevin Dunn doesn't like that they're more manly than him. I don't fucking know. These guys are fucking super talented. They got a great gimmick. And they lost in 2 minutes. Maybe even less than that. I don't have the official match times here. But Tyler Breeze and Fandango are going to Survivor Series. Good on them. Now, if they stop dressing like the fucking village people, maybe they'd be taken a little bit more seriously. Baron Corbin, obviously, he was supposed to be at Survivor Series. We talked about that in the opening. He's not going to be at Survivor Series. Shane McMahon books a six-man tag. Corbin doesn't want any part of it. So they replaced him with Kane. The main event scene, or the main event, quote-unquote, scene, the new Wyatt family. You got Orton, Wyatt, and Luke Harper versus Ambrose, Kane, and James Ellsworth. This went back and forth. Dean Ambrose was laying on the bottom rope here, and he knocked himself out along with Bray Wyatt after a double lariat clothesline. He went for that lunatic lariat that Moronolo calls it. Bray Wyatt went for his lariat. They both knocked each other out. Ellsworth was on the apron, pandering to the crowd. This guy got a fucking yes chant that rivaled Daniel Bryan. People wanted this guy in the match so much. This guy got a fucking Bayley-like reaction from Monday Night Raw. This guy is fucking over. And then he's wondering, should I tag in? The crowd wants him to tag in. He makes the blind tag to Dean Ambrose. Ambrose is fucking knocked out, laying lifeless on the bottom rope. He tags himself in. Soon as he gets in the ring, he starts fucking tuning up the band for No Chin music. And he gets caught as soon as he starts to deliver the super kick. Bray Wyatt gets up. Sister Abigail, 1, 2, 3. The Wyatt family and Randy Orton win the match. And that was it. And then obviously Shane McMahon comes out to avoid dissension between his team. Daniel Bryan comes out and announces that Shane McMahon is the new member of Team SmackDown. And that was it. That was SmackDown, and that's the way they went off the air. One thing of note about this James Ellsworth thing, man, I don't have a problem with James Ellsworth. I honestly think it needs to come to an end. I think it's obviously overstayed its welcome. Enough of this shit. Hopefully, come Survivor Series, after Survivor Series, we see the end of this. We don't see him back until the Royal Rumble. He makes a nice little cameo in the Royal Rumble. Maybe gets a big elimination, comes in at number 1, stands the test of time and lasts 60 minutes in there, just for the fuck of it, because, you know what, he's a nice guy, Let's keep this 15 minutes of fame rolling. Maybe he gets an elimination on a Braun Strowman or another big name in the Royal Rumble, and then he gets his fucking ass kicked for it, just like Maven and The Undertaker. But regardless of that, I think it's definitely overstayed its welcome. Needs to come to an end very fast. I want SmackDown and the main event to get back to normalcy, please, with Styles and Ambrose leading into TLC. That's just my 2 cents on that. Big news on Survivor Series tonight from SmackDown. Those are the biggest things from the show. We move on into the 900th episode next week. The Undertaker's going to be there. I already pitched you an idea for The Undertaker's return to the WWE. If I was in charge, Undertaker's coming back to challenge AJ Styles for the WWE Championship. If you want to be more specific, the winner of Ambrose versus Styles at TLC at the Royal Rumble. He wins the title in the Alamo Dome, is the new WWE Champion, and then John Cena comes back to reclaim his championship. But it's not going to be an easy task. He's got The Undertaker looking down at him, and it's going to be The Undertaker versus John Cena for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Stipulation included in that as well. If The Undertaker wins, obviously John Cena does not have a 16th title reign. If John Cena wins, The Undertaker retires, and that's his ride off into the sunset. That's just my idea on that. That's why I think The Undertaker's coming back. That's my logical guess on that. Edge is going to be there, and he's going to be having a segment, The Talking Edge, on SmackDown. Who his guest is going to be, I don't know. We have an Intercontinental Championship match next week. Shane McMahon appointed Dolph Ziggler versus The Miz for an Intercontinental Championship match 5 days before the Survivor Series. Should be awesome. Going to be a huge SmackDown episode next week. I will be right here reviewing it for you guys. Thank you so much for listening to me tonight. If you enjoyed the video, hit that thumbs up. Let me know what you're thinking about everything that happened from SmackDown tonight from Scotland. If you guys missed my video yesterday, man, I uploaded a WWE 2K17 video, My Career, episode 16. 5-star fatal 4-way, probably the greatest fatal 4-way you will see in WWE 2K17 for My Career, starring Mr. 9to5. Make sure you guys go check that out. It'll be in the description down below, and I'll post you a link in the comments section as well. Thank you guys so much. I'll be back tomorrow with more WWE 2K17 content. 1 in the morning, I got a Call of Duty video tomorrow as well. And then obviously Lucha Underground and NXT coverage tomorrow night, as well as out of nowhere. Going to be a big, busy Wednesday, man. So thank you guys so much for everything. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Until then, I'm JD. Thank you for watching. Hit that thumbs up, and I'll see you all tomorrow night.